Well, happy Taco Thursday to everybody out there. Yeah, we got a great show for y'all today, and I got my co-host Shane Carter in the building. How's it going, Shane?
It's going real good. I'm not. I am one of those people that lives, and this is kind of like a jump into, I guess, situation. I am one of those people who lives for the schedule release type stuff because the leaks, as you call them, quote unquote leaks, as some people like to call them, those are all staged. And I think this is
Right.
really just like the NFL's way of like staying relevant. We're 2 almost 3 weeks removed from the draft, and so like the NFL does its best because they realize from May up until mid August when training camp starts the NFL kind of takes a back seat to other sports, and sometimes it's like it's still built up, but it's kind of forgot about because the NBA obviously takes over, like especially like from April, May, June, and then July is owned by baseball and the All Star Game and all that, and from August on, it's all football. So that's the NFL's unnecessary way of generating content, generating I guess engagement, if you want to call it that, just because the NFL is king. We saw during the NFL draft. There were great playoff basketball games during the NFL draft, and the NFL draft had almost 3 times as many viewers on day one and day two. Day three, it kind of petered off a little bit, but there's still going to be a lot of people that watch that stuff. So I don't know how you feel about schedule release stuff like that. I don't really get anything out of that, to be honest.
Yeah, it's because there's no other sport that does like these big schedules. They don't do these big videos and spend all this money and everything. It's just the NFL that does this. I just see it as another way that as a content creators just to create content for the time being. It's not like something I wait for like the NFL draft and stuff like that. Sometimes I'm like you could just drop the schedule and then we talk about it and move on. But if you want to do videos like that, kind of go into what I want to ask you this. When it comes to the Cowboys to their scheduled videos, they're usually cringy, but they always have like well known names. From 0 to 5, what would you give this video?
Zero,
0.
and it's for one, and it's actually for two big reasons.
I got you.
One, I don't like the Jerry Dak tease because there's like this whole like ongoing situation with the contract. And two, and I learned this today from Dana B, one of the writers of our blog and the boys. Love her work.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that was like an homage or a parody, whatever you want to call it, of something the Kardashians did. And anyone who knows me knows how much I disdain and how much I do not respect that family and its affiliates. Notice I said affiliates like they're a channel because they're empty, soulless boxes. And so I really didn't appreciate at all that they did that. And to me, that level of disrespect and disgust I have for that kind of video that really feels like a troll in the fans is up there when they had Stephen A. Smith
Oh, that was the
of
worst.
the Four Letter Network being like the pretty much the star of their release video. I think that's for the 2021 or 2022 season. I can't remember, but I was disgusted because the thing about Stephen A. He has vocally said he likes Jerry Jones. He respects the players. He loves the coaches. It's the fans he doesn't like. And so when you as the owner and the front office, all that stuff, they have to agree on this stuff. They said, hey, let's get this guy who's been so disrespectful to our fan base, outwardly disliking our fan base. He wouldn't even bother talking to us himself unless it's behind security or behind a camera.
Yeah.
You have the gall to invite him as the guest for the release video. You are trolling the fans at that point, and I lost a lot of respect. And over the years, I've lost more and more respect for the front offices, including the Joneses, Jerry and Steven, for different reasons. That to me was a huge slap in the face of the fans. And this Kardashian type thing is really more of a personal distaste for myself. I mean, you might have liked all the stars. I could not care less who the stars were. As soon as like I found out about before I knew it was a Kardashian thing, I was like, this is kind of whatever, I guess. Like there's like
Yeah.
it's celebrities and all that. When I found out it was a Kardashian thing, I hated it even more. It went from a 2 to a 0, in my opinion. But I don't. Maybe you have a different view.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a homage to the Kardashians. I'm not like the biggest fan of them myself, but it wasn't as cringy as the Stephen A. Smith one. That was like the biggest middle finger of all of them.
Huge disrespect.
Yeah, that's the one I couldn't stand. The other one last year, I don't really remember. I just know it was a homage to Yellowstone, and then trying to see some of the players acting similar.
That one actually wasn't that bad. The Yellowstone one, that was clever. That one was clever just because like Yellowstone has been like one of the most talked about shows of the last 5 or so years.
Yeah,
And even though the show takes place, I think I don't know the entirety of the show. I think it takes place in Wyoming or something like that.
yeah.
There's Cowboys up there and there's Cowboys down here, so it meshed well, made sense.
Yeah, between the ones before that, I think that's probably one of the best ones. That's not saying a lot. The Chargers always keep it a higher level than a lot of. It's like way up here. The Cowboys are kind of like,
Did you see the dig that the Chargers gave on Harrison Butker?
oh, I didn't get to see that one.
So on the video, they have Harrison Butker, and you obviously know he's come under fire for like these really messed up comments that he
Oh,
had.
I remember
Yeah, so they have him in his jersey and pants in the kitchen, like cutting and washing dishes, stuff like that, like basically doing woman's work,
yeah,
that he would call it. And like that was obviously like a huge like middle finger to him, so to speak. It was already enough that it was the Chiefs, but it was him. And I feel bad for the Chiefs Kingdom because their team over the last couple of years has become more and more unliked by a lot of fan bases.
yeah,
And Butker is just like the bigoted cherry on top.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd say they're probably the best one. I did like the Falcons one a little bit because I was a big NFL Street fan when it was out. But I'm trying to think who else had another one. But
I don't remember. I didn't see all the videos.
yeah, I'd seen three, and of course, I just checked out the Cowboys to see which one, see how cringy it was. But before, kind of get into the schedule, I was on a let me see, I can get the schedule up. So I was gonna ask you which games are you excited to watch out of these games? Let me get it up here.
Okay. So every year I have the same sort of prediction when it comes to the Cowboys record, and that's this: they're going to go 5-1 in the division. More than likely, they'll split with the Eagles. For whatever reason, they beat the Eagles at home, they lose to the Eagles at Philly, and I don't. And it's
Yeah,
just that's just how it is. When both teams are at full power, like there's not some sort of injury issue, or maybe both teams have a similar injury issue the same season. Philly wins at home, Dallas wins at home. So I'm going to go ahead and like pencil that in.
okay.
They always lose one game they shouldn't. Last year, that game was Arizona. And they always win one game they shouldn't. Last year, I guess you could say that one. I'm trying to think like which team they beat that they should have lost to. I mean, I don't want to say I don't want to say Detroit because they were favored in that game. I think they might have been were they underdogs against Seattle?
Yeah, that's probably the only one.
Okay, that might have been the one game that where they shouldn't have won that they won anyway.
Yeah,
This year if I had to predict like which game that which team they might slip up against and which team they shouldn't beat but they will. A slip up game I could see when I look at the schedule. I have to be realistic with it, obviously with my belief. I think a slip up team I really would watch out for, and it depends on like what it looks like. I watch out for the Panthers because you look at the schedule right there in that little bubble. Week 14, the Bengals. Right after that, you got the Bucks, who at the two up right now are the lead dog in the NFC South. We'll see how the season looks like. Then you got to go to Philly and then home against Washington. Those last two are obviously interdivisional games, which could decide who wins the East at the end of it all, especially if Washington really is much better than they were last year. And a lot of times the Panthers can be one of those little trap games, people want to call it. And I had talked about it last year. You remember I was on Tacos and Touchdown. We talked about with my guy Johnny V that I think that the Cardinals to me were a true trap game because they had just got done beating who was it? They had just got done beating the Jets, and
yeah,
maybe
it
they
was
were
the Jets.
and maybe they were looking past the Cardinals. But the Cardinals, like we talked about, they did two things really well against the Cowboys. They run the ball well, and they play really well against pass rush. And the Cowboys were down 3 stars in the offensive line. And so if I look at like a true track game, the Panthers to me because they've improved well, they got a lot of good talent on that team from last year to this year. That could be a team that I could see being one you want to watch out for. For a team that they shouldn't beat, but I think that they have a good chance to beat. I could see the Bengals beating that team because they're at home, and the Cowboys last year they didn't lose at home until they got to the playoffs. Especially if Joe Burrow's back to full strength,
Mm-hmm.
they got them. That's gonna be a primetime game. That's gonna be huge. I could see the Bengals beating that team, but when I look at the schedule, right, Dak Prescott's my quarterback. So right away, I already know at worst the Cowboys are gonna be 9-8 because the Cowboys don't go under 500 with Dak Prescott. They just don't do it.
They're not good.
But if we look at this team, like if I look at like which teams am I not feeling good about on their schedule, like I don't know how I feel about this team. I don't know if we can beat this team. I don't know if we're good enough to play with this team. I only see two teams on here that I think the Cowboys today I don't think are good enough to play with, and that's Baltimore and San Francisco, especially because they have to go on the road to San Francisco. But I think we can. I think they can play with the Browns. To me, have more talent across the roster, but I do not trust their quarterback. Deshaun Watson to me has been cooked for years. Um, I'm trying. I don't know. I'm looking at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is two. I guess you could call high upside, but low floor type quarterbacks. I don't know what's going to go on there. I don't trust the Giants. Don't give me the Giants. The Lions are going to be good, obviously, but I also question a lot of times like team success when they haven't had that kind of success in multiple years. Would they have a fall off season? When I look at a team that could fall off, I'm looking at the Lions and look at the Texans, right? I see between those two, I see the Texans as more of an ascendant team than the Lions, only just because the Lions were good last year. The Texans are younger and healthier, and the Lions. I don't know. I might be overanalyzing it, but that's like my initial thoughts just looking at it.
Yeah, I can see the Texans being even more of a threat than when it comes to the Lions. Just like you said, a younger team, and they've been adding on to the arsenal to the Texans team, and then you add a Diggs in there. When it comes to I'm looking at the Ravens as a team and the 49ers due to the fact they're going to try to test the run game when it comes to our team. Because I know we got Mike Zimmer, who focus more on the containing the run.
Very disciplined.
Yeah, so that's gonna be the main thing. Like our first 3 weeks when it comes to our defense and our old line is gonna be truly tested when it comes to these teams. So that's good to see instead of like having like the cupcake games. These are actually some guys that could give us some problems. But I could see out of those three, we could go 2-1 out of those first 3 weeks. Like the Giants, we usually keep it 2-0 with that. The Eagles, like you're saying, it's like home we win, away we're gonna lose. Washington, most of the time we have them at the last of the season. We end up
that last game, depending on if it matters or not, could end up factoring how that game goes. Because I don't even notice this, but like since Dak Prescott's been the quarterback of the Cowboys, they've had a lot more last week of the season games that didn't matter, whether it meant the Cowboys were already in and they couldn't advance in the playoffs, or they were already eliminated.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of like meaningless final weeks, and Washington, I think, has been on the receiving end of 3 of those, if I remember right. Like even last year didn't mean much. Well, I mean that's not true. They had to win, and the Eagles had to lose to secure the 2 seed.
Mm-hmm.
But the Cowboys also played a lot of their backups that game.
Yeah.
So it's gonna obviously depend on Jaden Daniels. Like we'll see what that looks like.
That's true. So what do you think about like the setup for the bye week though? Do you like it in week 7, or you kind of wish it was a little later in the season?
I'm a fan of mid season bye weeks. And since this is an 18-week schedule, your midseason is anywhere from 7 to 10, so it's kind of in that sweet spot. Just because, but I also don't love the fact that you're only going to get in 6 games. You have your bye week, and then after that, it's pretty much like you have the rest of your 11 games. The one thing I do like about it is the majority of your final 11 games at home, which is nice. Wait, 1, 2. Oh no, I miscounted. No, it's a 5-5 split. Okay, so no, I hate the bye week. Never mind, I miscounted. Yeah, I hate that.
I had to look.
If it was like that, but they had more home games than away, but the fact that it's even, I don't like that. I do like that they're getting some of their harder games out of the way before the bye week, like the Lions, like the Ravens. We'll see about the Browns. I think Deshaun's cooked, but I like the rest of their offense and I love their defense. But the NFL needs to put 2 bye weeks. They need 2 bye weeks. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I definitely agree because you added another game. Was add another bye week in there or something? Like, I'm gonna go on another tangent about that if we go into that detail.
College football has 2 bye weeks, and they play 13 games a year.
Yeah, they play less games and they get 2 bye weeks. But But who are we to tell the NFL? But
we're the product. We're the people who subscribe to the product.
Yeah, we do. We could complain all we want. We're still gonna watch it every Sunday, Thursday, and on Monday or any random day they put it on. So
on Netflix.
I forget where it's on Netflix this year. Got to buy Netflix again, but we're good. We'll get into our next topic, and it's kind of staying into there. And I want to get into the storylines for the first game of the season against the Cowboys versus Browns. So, what's one of the major storylines you're looking for in this game?
Yeah, revenge game. Amari Cooper going up against the old team with the Cowboys. I think it's going to be telling who the cornerback that covers him is, just because now the Browns, they obviously remember they traded for Jerry Jeudy, and so that's going to be his compliment across the field. But I don't really think either one of those two guys is a true X receiver. And then you obviously have Elijah Moore, who's come in as a pretty nice slot option. So those are your three receivers. Those guys are all speedy route technician type receivers. So I would imagine that they would put that Bland. If I had to guess, that your starting cornerbacks are Diggs, Bland, and then Lewis in the inside. We'll see what Kalen Carson looks like, because I really like Kalen Carson at Wake Forest. You know, in terms of speed, I don't think Amari Cooper has the same speed he once did, but he's still a really good route runner. So that's why I would probably put Diggs on him. So that would be the matchup that I watch out for, Bama on Bama, so to speak. Just because I think Jeudy is a little more fresh legs than Coop, even though Jeudy obviously has his own injury history. But I think just like right now, I would say Judy's faster. So that you want Bland to cover the fast receiver on the outside. But the Amari Cooper revenge game is definitely going to be a talking point if it hadn't been already.
Yeah, because you never know he's going to show out in this game. Is like, I think that's the best matchup. I definitely got to see how Trayvon Diggs is back after the ACL injury and everything. But I wouldn't want to put him against the Jerry Jeudy, just due to the fact that you're playing against a guy that's a bit more faster, but he has an injury history of his own. But the next one, what do you think about Tom Brady getting his TV debut as a broadcaster with Kevin Burkhardt?
I ain't surprised. I thought it was unfair to Greg Olson, who had been a great color analyst for Fox, part of the A team, that immediately, even without really like seeing what Brady does in action, they gave him the A team spot, color spot next to Ken Burkhardt. Yeah. And I really wonder if Ken at all said anything like, "No, I want Greg," or like, and it didn't matter. It wasn't his decision, which is too bad because Greg was such a great analyst. But honestly, when I learned that Tom Brady was going to be on the Fox crew, I was like, okay, he's going to do all the Cowboys games. The Fox loves to put on their A crew for any Cowboys game, similar to when they had Troy and Joe. When Troy and Joe were the guys, they were at almost every Cowboys game, and it was always a show. And so I think they're trying to replicate that success. We saw Greg. I think they did 5 Cowboys games last year. If I remember, I think I saw something like that. And I think Brady is going to become attached to the Cowboys at this point, just because they are must-see TV, regardless of who the quarterback is, regardless of what the team is like. And Brady is, Brady is basically going to come in the same regard that Tony Romo came into CBS with a high pedigree type name. I'd say a higher pedigree type name, but Tom Brady is like very personable, very enthusiastic, he's a good looking dude. Let's just be honest, let's be real. He's got a lot of personality to him, so there's a lot to like there. I don't know what he's like in terms of breaking down the game. I've never seen the Manning cast. So a lot of people are like, oh, he can do this, he can do that. Just because some people, just because you play the game doesn't mean you can talk the game, and we see that every day on FS1 and ESPN. That so it'll be interesting to see like what he's like, but more than likely, Cowboys fans are gonna have to just get used to the fact they're gonna see a lot of Tom Brady for the near future.
Yeah, it's basically you're gonna put in a higher namesake over a guy that's actually did a really good job, but you're like, well, it's Tom Brady. Everybody knows Tom, like you're saying. He has all the charisma and everything, but can he put it on when it comes to for 3 to 4 hours just talking football, then doing everything else? Because this is a different story from just doing a couple of shows here and there, because now you got to break down the game while watching it at the same time. So we'll see how Tom Brady does. But is there like a third one that comes to mind? Because the one that comes to mind is it's kind of more reverses, like what partially revamped offensive line against Myles Garrett's defense and the rest of the defensive line. I want to see how that looks against they play against the Browns.
I'm rooting for both Guyton and BB, because right now it looks like BB is going to get every opportunity to win that center job. Here's my belief. If BB doesn't win the center job, it's because he ain't ready to be a center. He is miles ahead of Brock Hoffman, even as a rookie, as a pure blocker. Guyton is going to come in at the left tackle, and we talked about before. Like he he might not have been our preferred option at left tackle, but he primarily played right tackle just because their quarterback was left-handed, and he showed a lot of promise at right tackle, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I think he has the length and the athleticism to switch to the left side. I'm not going to pretend like they're in a huge curve just because I told you before the most important and even the hardest position on the offensive line to play is left tackle, especially unless your quarterback's left-handed, then it's the other side. But I think this Browns defensive line, which you said Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, um, Dalvin Tomlinson, who they signed, he's been a really underrated defensive tackle. And I forgot who the other starting defensive
Shelby
tackle is.
Harris.
Shelby Harris, yeah, another really good player. That's a really staunch front four, and so, but that also could be a good thing for both Guyton and Beebe, just because the best way a lot of times to develop a rookie is to throw them into the fire, especially against good teams. You know, how do you get a diamond out of a piece of coal? Apply pressure.
Yeah, you gotta have the pressure, and that's kind of going back to even when I'm trying to think of when Tyron got into the league, he had to go against Marcus Ware when he was first time in the league. That helped him.
Oh yeah, they went there against him all the time. He got his ass kicked in practice too. Like DeMarcus Ware put him on his hinges. To be fair, I thought remember Tyron Smith was his right tackle his rookie year, and the next year moved over to left tackle, and he looked a lot more natural, a lot more comfortable, and he slowly became one of the best, if not the best, left tackle in the league. I'm hoping for the same thing for Tyler Guyton, who obviously came in as a right tackle, now has to play left tackle in the same regard as Tyron Smith, with obviously fresher limbs.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm going to get into our last part of the show, and that's kind of talking about Jared Goff getting his extension a few days ago, making him the second highest paid quarterback behind Joe Burrow. He had a 4-year extension for $212 million extension with a $170 million guarantee.
And a $73 million do-it signing.
Oh, yeah.
The highest in NFL history.
Yeah. So what does that mean for Dak? Do you think that affects what kind of money Dak could be pursuing in the near future, or do you think they get this contract done anytime soon?
I don't think it changes price at all. I think Dak's price is already going to be somewhere between 50 and 55 million per year. I think that wasn't going to change regardless of who the fact. But all Goff's contract did was just reiterate to any quarterback extension out there, whether it's Dak or Tua or I'm trying to think of like who other quarterback could be another quarterback up for extension. I'll just say Dak or Tua, just because they're the most recent, they're the most newest ones to get one. That the quarterback market right now for an upscale starting quarterback is going to be over $45 million a year, obviously, and that was never going to change. I think it might have changed his guaranteed price, but maybe that was it. I think that at the very least it was that. But if I had to think, did Jared Goff's price tag really up Dak's? Not really. I don't think the Cowboys are going to offer. I don't think Dak's going to get Joe Burrow's $55 million per year because, the Bengals I don't think they overpaid. I think they properly paid for one of the two or three best quarterbacks in the game, injury history aside. And Jared Goff is coming to a franchise which has never seen success like it saw last year, never. And they're paying for a quarterback that has found a second coming, and he works in that system. And so that's just the price of the quarterback. That's the price of the guy. I don't think one guy getting paid over another is necessarily going to change what the asking price already was. All it might do is change the guarantees, but the price range was already set. We already knew it was going to be above 50 mil, between 50 and 55. It wasn't going to touch 60, so that part was already expected.
Yeah, when it comes to Dak, I just hope it just gets done. All pushed aside. I just wanted to get done. You got the quarterback, sign him, because if he's out there in the free agent market next year, there's gonna be some teams out there that definitely would like his service on a team.
Yeah,
like quarterbacks don't grow on trees. There's some franchises that have been wishing they had a quarterback like a Dak Prescott on the team. So there can be Dak haters talking about, oh, Dak's not this, but there's a lot of teams wish they had a Dak Prescott on their team. So. Yeah, this has definitely been a great show. Before I let you go, bro, is there anything you got going on in the near future? Anything?
Well, I do have something that's in the works that could potentially be going down career wise. I can't tell everyone watching just yet because nothing's been confirmed yet, but I will give them a hint that it has to do with what you see behind Aaron. And that's all I can say on that. Once I know more, I will push it on to everybody else. But obviously, until then, it's fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely fingers crossed, bro. I wish you the best on that for sure. This has definitely been tacos and touchdowns. Y'all definitely tune in next Thursday. We'll have another great show for y'all. It's gonna be between 5 to 7. All depends on what's going on in our lives, but we're gonna keep it
You
consistent.
can adjust. It's a short show. We keep it 20 to 35 minutes. Y'all can spare some time for us.
Yeah, like if you live in San Antonio, going from point A to point B, this is perfect where you are living in any big city or just sitting and chilling. We're the perfect show for you to watch. We're not going to take too much of your time. Just listen to us, share, like, and everything. And definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel and all our social medias as well. We'll definitely greatly appreciate it. Help this channel grow for sure. But this has been Tacos and Touchdowns. Y'all have a great one. Peace.
Peace.